where the American media actually cared about our elections. And now it's like I turn on CNN, I see Justin Trudeau and Jolie, I believe it's Melanie Jolie, who's another Canadian MP, was on CNN last night. And then we have Mark Carney, who is probably going to run for the Liberal leadership. Actually, he just announced that yesterday. He basically went on the Jon Stewart show to spearhead his campaign. This stuff used to never happen, and suddenly Americans care about what's happening in Canada. What do you think's happened? What do you think's happened here?
Well, Steven, I wouldn't say geopolitics is like my strong suit, but you asked my opinion, and I've formed one because, when you study the gold and silver markets, I mean, like all vectors lead to gold in a way. So I think it's because there's this populist movement worldwide. I mean, you're really seeing a backlash pushing in America with Trump, with what's going on with Le Pen, what's going on in other countries. I mean, Macron is not like the most popular guy out there. So you're seeing the pendulum swing the other direction. And if you take that further to answer your question, I think it's starting to spill out into, one new world order versus one old world order. Or if it's going to be new world order, we're going to incorporate Canada in the United States and Greenland in the United States, which I don't, I'll stay neutral and comment on that. But it is interest in, I think, two factions. Populist, which is catching momentum, and the amount of push that the globalists have done to this point in time.
So
I'll even like to add to that, where I do believe there is at least two factions, where it's the old guard and the new guard, in the aspect of the people who are comfortable with the fiat and the people who want to push for AI technology.
one of the other things that's recently happened.
I'm in agreement that there is two factions: the old guard, which is the fiat, and the new guard, which is the digital currency. Those two factions are going to fight, but we all know the direction that we're pushing towards.
And I don't know if you've been following this, but just this week there was I guess it was last week, the CES 2025, which is where all the big tech companies go and they announce their new products and what they're working on. And we had Jensen Huang from NVIDIA hopped up on stage, and he was talking about how they've got the chips that are going to go in all the humanoid robots. And he must have had, like, it looked like 24 different types of companies, humanoid robots behind him. And I,
Wow.
and
Just look at that. NVIDIA is really leading the front, period. To see them be the chip behind all of these different bots. We thought Tesla was the only bot, but look at the handful of bots that are already ready to roll out. So if you don't like Tesla, LG got one, probably Samsung got one.
you start to think when you see this, first off, I didn't think humanoids robots were like realistically going to happen anytime soon. He's acting like that might actually be a thing relatively soon. And then you sit down and you start to think about what the future might look like with where technology's going. And you can't help but wonder what kind of an impact it's going to have on the economy and people's jobs and how we can exist under the economic structures that we've built in a world where we've got robots that might be able to do most of the service work that people do.
I want to comment on that, Stephen. It's an excellent question. I just want to digress a moment and give you some background because you mentioned that, it's kind of hard to believe how fast these humanoid robots are there. I thought they'd be further out in the future and all that. So most people that have followed me for a long time and watch everything I do because I don't talk about this very often, know my background prior to being 100% in the financial business. And I worked in the aircraft business at the dark level, you might say. So I was cleared for the SR-71 U-2. I worked on the F-117 and programs I cannot talk about. So let me just say this. Back in the white world, when I was a very young man, the XB-70 was, I think it's called a Valkyrie, if I remember right. And that thing flew at Mach 3 for like 5 minutes, and it was mainstream news. Look at the advancement we have in aircraft. Well, hell, that same day, the SR-71 had put in like 3 hours above Mach 3, right? But it was a black program. So what I'm trying to indicate is that what you see in the white world is probably years behind what actually exists.
And I'm going to agree with that young man, because my personal stories can conclude with that. I'm going to agree with the young man by saying the technology that they're giving us today is years behind the technology that they are actually using and implementing. So if we're seeing these toy-like robots, trust me, Bezos and the other billionaires that we don't know anything about, they have fully autonomous robonoids that probably look and talk like human. So they're giving us the scraps to play with while they're light years ahead of us.
Drones, for example. I can't say too much on that field, but we had drones going on way back when people didn't even know how to spell the word. And so with that in mind, what you see in the robotics field is like, okay, if they've got that for public use, think of what the military might have. So having said that, yeah,
Black
it
Ops.
bothers me in a lot of ways. One is if you start worshiping the ability to make a profit at the expense of people, we're a very unbalanced society globally. I mean, efficiency's great, higher profits, I'm okay with that. But when you start looking at that's being more important than the human element, we have a problem.
I'm glad that he agrees that the removal of the human element is a big problem. Profits are good, efficiency is nice, but when you start removing the person, where are we actually leading towards?
And I think that's the push. I think everybody believes technology is going to save us. Well, what if technology displaces us? What if we all become a bunch of useless eaters to the political class and we get on a universal basic income and we're in a 15-minute city and the only way we could escape is by putting on a VR headset? Now, if that's the direction we're going, we've lost our humanity. So that's my thoughts on it, Steve. I really am not, I'm old school and I know that guy in the, people think I'm like a woodsman or something. That's not me. But regardless, I think deeply, and I got some knowledge because of my age. And I'll tell you, it's not
Wisdom, not knowledge,
that's because
wisdom.
we're
Knowledge plus
becoming
age equals
less
wisdom.
balanced, more unbalanced, and we're pursuing
Knowledge plus age equals wisdom.
a goal that is not beneficial to humanity. Now, there's arguments that AI is going to make us better, and maybe it will. So I'm not going to say it's in stone. I'm giving you my opinion on it, but the way I see it is what I just outlined.
It's funny too, and I'm curious what your thoughts on this are, because I was watching a video today about how we've got to get more critical on social media when we see stuff, because it used to be like, everybody's got a different agenda and different motives, and we don't really know what people are trying to get at when we see stuff on social media. But now with the we could say the advancement of AI, we don't even know if the people we see on social media are real people or if they're just some sort of AI bot that basically gives us the illusion that we're looking at two people debate about a topic. And a lot of people, there's been a lot of studies on this to show that when people read an article, a lot of them just scroll down to the comments first thing, and they sort of see who's winning the debate, and that's how they form their opinions. And I think that this is sort of a scary thing that we're seeing. And I know you're somebody who's basically been active on social media from the early days to today, and I'm curious what your thoughts on that are. Do you think that this, and we can get into the TikTok ban as well. Do you think that we're entering a point where we've got to get governments need to get more serious about regulating social media, or do you think that free speech trumps the ability for bots to be on social media? What's your thoughts on everything that's happening right now with social media?
My thoughts are, when it comes to social media, it is a little scary to know that authenticity would be lost with AI. And the only way now to reestablish that is through digital identification. Period. Problem, action, solution.
First of all, let me say that, I'm not afraid to say I don't have an opinion.
Okay.
I'll frame it this way. I'm still forming an opinion on that. Bottom line for me is free speech is free speech. So it should be wide open. Now, of course, there's always exceptions. I mean, if you yell fire in a theater, I mean, is that free speech or is that stupidity? But let's not go there. Let's just talk about, okay. But I'm leaning toward, and again, this is not formulated as this is how I want it. I think it could be smart to say free speech, but let you know it's a bot. Now, I could pick them up at this point in time most of the time because I quit using comments on my most of my material when I'm interviewed on you and there's open comments. I can't do anything about it. That's fine with me. But and this will probably sound arrogant and, love me or hate me. It's like, look, if you want my opinion, I've got a channel. I do a lot of work for free for the public, and I have for years. I've never taken a penny. I don't monetize my videos, none of that. But if you want my opinion, it's there. But I really don't want yours, I mean, not that I don't take it from my members.
I don't want your opinion, bro.
Of course I do.
Keep it to yourself.
But I just don't have time to go through all those comments. And, I used to have a couple girls in the Philippines, and they were trained, and they would respond. I just got tired of it. And the bot thing, just a side comment, maybe for a laugh, as my webmaster said, watch this. He did this thing, and he sent it to me, and about 3 days later, he took an AI to listen to a couple of my podcasts, and then he had it read like half of the sales page on our website, and it sounded exactly like.
Yeah, and it's funny too, because we're noticing it right now when we talk, especially with Silver. We did one Silver interview that got way more views than our typical video, and way more comments. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at the comments. And by the way, the sentiment on it was incredibly bearish on Silver. And I'm going through the comments and I'm looking at the analytics. It all appears to be real, but my initial instinct when I look at it is I'm thinking, is there some sort of greater entity here that's pushed some sort of button that has a bunch of bots spamming our video with comments that are negative on Silver? Because we've never seen anything like it before. Perhaps it just got shared in some community. We don't know. Maybe the sentiment on Silver actually is that bearish, but we went down the list and it seemed like something was up there. Like there was a lot of bots commenting, trying to control the narrative on Silver. Have you noticed anything like that, or am I just being paranoid?
Well, it's not that I've noticed bots, but I have been told that there are agencies that do make the effort to interact with people online to formulate consensus that they want to push forward. I have heard that before, having full-out agencies be in your inbox, be in your chats, be in your comments. I don't know. What do you have to say about that, sir? I have seen agencies reply as if they were real comments. So maybe agencies are employing. I
I
go
think you're
say.
being fair
I go say.
and you're being objective. I mean, you can look at it and score it, and there's a little more negative. I can't prove it, so it's hearsay, but the government cares a lot more about silver than it is gold. And I noticed, bots have been around for a while, just not with the sophistication that they are now. And I noticed that early on, that there was
Consumers
a
buy gold,
propensity
government
to
and military
score
buy
silver negatively. And that was another reason I shut down the comments on my the videos I make. I have control over. I can say no comments, and when I do, and it's fine to have comments. I just have time to read them. I do interviews with you and others, and some of the others say, David, could you please, come into the comment section and respond to some of these? And I have done that, but I've got other things to do. But no, you're right. I think that the silver story needs to be suppressed. I mean, the silver story from a monetary aspect and a technology aspect is the hero's journey. I mean, it's the underdog story of all monetary systems and technology, because without silver, nothing happens. So if we, the people, globally, not the US, not Canada, everyone, understood the significance of silver, its value, not its price, and we're able to grab 1 ounce per person kind of thing, we would have a great deal of power, because it'd be like holding all the oil in private hands. Without oil, nothing moves. You can't have anything move without the oil sector. So in the metal sector, silver's that powerful. But they don't want that word out. And cranks like me, I've been shadow banned for decades. The only place I'm not is X. I seem to have a pretty freewheeling going on X. I got like 100,000 followers there. But if you look at my YouTube channel, it's only 42,000, and the same 2,500 people watch it again and again and again. And I thank you for that. I appreciate the loyalty. I'm a very loyal person. But the message is what's important, not the messenger. I'm not going to live forever. And men better than me, women better than me, supported me, helped me, taught me, mentored me, and got me to a position where I am passionate about power to the people. And I don't mean that in a communist way. I mean it in a freedom way. We should be the ones that dictate our own political situation, where in the United States, the idea, which has been turned upside down, is that we have all the power and the government serves us. And they're there to protect our God-given, constitutionally secured rights. And that, of course, has been turned upside down.
So David, it sounds to me like if you were to, let's just say that it's a given that there's some sort of group out there that is going around trying to smear the sentiment on silver, and again, we don't know that. Let's just assume that that's true. Would you? It sounds like your guess at who would be behind that would be the U.S. government.
Well, what we know for a fact, and I love to state a fact, I'm a trained engineer before I got my finance degree. And the facts are that silver is the only commodity that's ever had a users association. Now, it's been disbanded or purportedly disbanded. You can't find them on the internet anymore, but there was a Silver Users Association. Well, what was the Silver Users Association? When it was all the silver users that were super powerful, like Dow Chemical, Kodak at the time, because Kodak, film before the modern age, old style film used a great deal of silver. So you had Kodak, Dow Chemical, some of the conglomerates, and they band together for one reason and one reason only, and that was to keep silver's price down low, because it's an industrial commodity. Let's not think of it as money. Let's make sure that we band together and have a cartel to control the price, and that's the Silver Users Association. You don't have a users association for wheat or corn or cotton or cocoa or coffee or anything else. And that, again, has been disbanded. But that right there is something that you could do some research on. Maybe we could have a show about that, Steve. But I don't know how much you'd find on Google now. It's probably out there. Or maybe they took it off the web. I really don't know. But that right there is a fact. So why? Why would you have a users association? Well, what I just outlined. You want to be able to control it. You want to control how much of it, and what the costs are. Because Tiffany was another one. Well, Tiffany marks up silver like any jeweler does. You know, you buy it for $1 and you sell for 10 or 100. You know, I mean, jewelry is, you know, that's the way that business goes. And I think we all know it. If we buy a wedding ring, you know, we know we're paying a great deal more than the weight of gold when we buy a gold band. And we all accept that and we pay it because we want the ring or whatever. So I'm going down a rabbit hole. I don't mean to, but no, the fact is, what other commodity has a users association? None.
So, what's your sentiment on silver right now? Have you publicly made any? I don't know if forecast is the right word, but any guesses? Maybe throwing out some sort of projections for where you think silver could be heading in 2025.
Yeah, I have. I think we might see 40 this year. Of course, that's barring a black swan hitting a black swan where we could go crazy. But I do think that we're going to have a hard time getting over the 33 high that we saw last year. And once we do that, then we'll probably continue higher. I did say we would consolidate, and we kind of, what they do say in the commodities business, consolidate the gains. We've already seen both gold and silver up roughly 30% year over year last year. And so it's going to take a while to digest that kind of a move. And once we do, then they'll either move up or down, and it's probably going to move up. And it could go soon. It could go not soon. I'm thinking it's going to go between a big trading range, both gold and silver, in a trading range, which has been, they both have been in for some time. I think that will continue for a few months. The only caveat I have to that is there's a real.
Looking for a Canadian regulated broker that can match your drive and ambition?
Come on, guys.
Don't settle for second best.
Gold, silver.
Stress going on in the exchange for physicals market, the ETF market, where you can exchange a piece of paper and get physical metal. And with the tariffs, that's throwing a wrench into the gears as well, because the silver users that need the product for industrial reasons are worried about a tariff. So now they're shipping silver here, there, and everywhere before a possible tariff goes in place. Because if there's a tariff added on the silver, obviously that's going to increase the price. So there's a bit of a scramble going on in the silver market right now, and it looks on paper as if we could be in a situation that could go into a silver squeeze. And, you know, I'll say it on your show. I mean, I'm saying it's possible. But it is something to watch, because silver can defeat the best of us. I mean, I've been in this market too long, but it can surprise me, and I know what to look for more than the average person would. Not perfectly, but I've certainly got more experience. And with all that said, not perfectly, but I've certainly got more experience. And with all that said, I wouldn't be shocked if all of a sudden we are at 33. By March 1st, because there's problems getting physical in the silver market. What's ironic about that is I'm differentiating the silver market, which is the commercial bar 1,000 ounce bar market, that's the silver market, versus the retail market, which is your silver rounds, silver government minted coins, your kilo bars, and your 100 ounce bars. That market's dead, at least in North America. No one is buying silver in the retail market. In fact, the sells are greater than the buys. To talk about irony, the basic silver stacker out there is disgusted, worn out, tired, doesn't want to hear the words, got enough, I want to sell some, I'm waiting for a pop so I can get rid of some. And yet on the silver industrial / big buyers, which buy 1,000 ounce bars for investment, that market's pretty tight.
Okay, so David, when I look at what the Silver Institute has, and we think about it, we're coming off 4 straight years of a silver deficit. So that's there's more demand than there is supply, and for pretty much all logical reasons, it looks like there will be a 5th straight year of it. And then we look at the price of silver; it's generally gone from $20 into the $30 range. And
I just want to make a quick note. They're artificially making the supply low. Like we just discussed Kodak and all the other players, they've had an agreement where, hey, we're going to keep silver at a very low production rate to keep the costs low. But at the same time, they're probably holding on different mines that are not even public yet. So when you're like, oh, silver is this, silver is that, you got to also think to yourself, there's probably mines that have not even been discussed yet in terms of, yeah, there's silver there. So that's something to think about.
And I know that on these shows, you know, we're all YouTubers and we're looking for views, and we want to tell people that the price of silver is going to be $300 in 300 days, and everybody should start stacking now. But when I look at sort of what's happened with the price over the last 5 years, it has actually responded, and I feel like as long as these deficits continue to happen, we're going to continue to see that trend. I mean, it's going to be volatile, but it's going to be upwards to the right. And it looks like in 5 years, we could be at $75 silver. It's just maybe not happening as, you know, in as exciting of a way as I think most retail investors or silver stackers would like to see it happen. But it looks to me, when I look at the chart, that the momentum is there, and it's just maybe not as quite as exciting as.
Looking at the charts for silver, I do see the market pulling back for a huge liquidity grab. I don't know if you can see it on my screen, but you see this liquidity right here? You see that, right? Yeah, that is going to be a lot for the market to leave behind. So, interesting.
People want it to be.
Well said. I'll just add on to that slightly, Steve. I mean, and I'll own this because I was the one actually way back when the silver market did really well from the year roughly 2000 and 2011. And I said, gold will preserve your wealth, but silver could, not would, but could make you wealthy, meaning that silver will outperform gold. And it did during those years, but it hasn't since. In fact, it's really lagged gold based on the gold-silver ratio. You know, when I was out there speaking on silver worldwide back in those years, silver went from, you know, the $5 level all the way back up to 50 temporarily or close to it. And the gold-silver ratio got down to 33 to 1. Now the gold-silver ratio is like 85 to 1, with silver at, you know, round numbers 30 and gold at 2,700. So if I had to take that statement back, which I can't, I'd say that gold preserves your wealth and so does silver. And that's about all it's done. And the only way I could see it really outperforming silver in the near future is a panic buy into silver, because there's a perception we're running out. So these deficits continue. One industry like Apple Computer doesn't have enough for the iPhone, and all of a sudden they go to their logistics department and they say, hey, order us, you know, however many tons of silver we need for the next 3 months. And they say, hey, we just got a call from whatever metals dealer they're using. They don't have it. They can't get it to us for 3 weeks. So now Apple has to put their iPhone on hold. I'm just making up a scenario. But something like that would take place. You might, if that got sniffed out and other industrial users knew that, they might go ahead and buy more than normal. And then if that caught on to the retail market or the investment community, institutional and retail, then you could see some panic buying. But I think that cryptocurrency world has taken over the silver world. I mean by that, if you look at one of my favorite books back here, Silver, the Restless Metal, all the data through about 1960 shows if you have high inflation, silver's the place to be. And I believe that. And it was by historical standards. But now, if we have a hyperinflation or a high inflation, it's probably the crypto world is the place to be.
I'll agree with him as well. The crypto world will be the place to be because it's going to be the place where they're going to.
So yes, gold and silver will preserve your wealth, but now crypto and DeFi will make you wealthy.
I got a theory on that, and that is that what really drives the crypto market is Bitcoin. And I feel like as Bitcoin gets to that upper end, and look, what do I know? I probably would have been saying the same thing at Bitcoin at 20,000. But now that we're at 100,000 and we're at, I guess, what does that work out to? Like a $2 trillion market cap for Bitcoin? It starts to get so heavy that I just don't think it's going to get those gains that are going to attract retail investors, or you just the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker. What really excites them is when they see charts going nuts and, oh, like, look at the gains on this thing. It's up 1,000% over the last year. And I think that's part of the reason that gold and precious metals in general have lost their luster with the general person, is because we haven't seen those gains in the precious metals community in years. Those sort of rips where you go from 300 to 1,800 in a matter of 10 years, and that's what when people start to get excited is when they see those gains, and they end up just providing exit liquidity for the people who were early. And because Bitcoin is what drives the crypto market, and it's getting so heavy that it's going to be harder and harder to move it, I don't know what the next move is that's going to keep bringing money into crypto. It's certainly not going to be the Hawk Tuah coin. But that's my view on it, is that it feels like as Bitcoin gets heavier and heavier, just that generalist who wants a way to hedge themselves against inflation, that watches videos like these, they're going to get a little bit tired of the Bitcoin trade, and they're going to be seeking something else. And hopefully this will be a time for silver.
Yeah, well said. I think you're very accurate. I mean, it's, think about doubling your money. I mean, Bitcoin's got to go from 100,000 to 200,000.
Yep.
That's a lot of loot.
That's $4 trillion in market cap.
Yeah. So that takes a lot of energy to do that. And it's like a penny stock. A 12-cent stock could go to $1 a lot easier than Barrick can double usually, but different conditions. So I think you're making a very, very solid point. And it's the psychology is more what I was pointing toward, and I'm glad you brought up the facts about it, which you did a great job on. And having said that, I think there could be a reversal, at least temporarily, where, as I said earlier, you might get the synergy of investment demand. Hey, silver's cheap and everybody's buying it. I mean, it doesn't take much. Silver is a small market. And so if everyone says, you know what, it's above 30, but all of a sudden it's at 40, and I'm sure it's going. I'll tell you another thing, the algorithms. Once silver goes above 50 in US dollar terms, and I believe it will this time, not maybe the next time through, it might stall out and back off and go back to that 42, and then we'll see it can never get above 50. And then 3 weeks later it's at 65, because silver can make those kind of moves. Once the algorithms see it above 50 and it stays above 50, they'll start buying. Because everyone's taught backwards. They're taught buy low and sell high. What you really want to do is buy high and sell higher. And that's your actually best way to trade stocks or commodities.
Okay, so David, we really appreciate you hopping on here. It's always a pleasure when you come on. I know our audience loves it.
Buy high,
if
sell
they want
higher.
more of your commentary, where can they go to? How can they sign up for your newsletter?
Just go to the main landing page, themorganreport.com. Take a look at the header and get on the free list. And then I would like to plug my documentary, silversunrise.tv. Scroll down and watch a few of the trailers. We've got the G. Edward Griffin that wrote Creature from Jekyll Island, Foster Gamble, who goes Thrive 1 and Thrive 2, The Web of Debt author, one of the best constitutional lawyers in the United States, Mark Passio that teaches about natural law, yours truly. I have a lot of time, effort, and money into this thing. It's getting edited now, and hopefully we'll have the documentary completed by probably the end of March, so first quarter this year. And then I'm not sure what I'm going to do as far as I'm going to charge. I would like to get some funds back. I've funded most of it. But regardless, it's looking at the spiritual side of money and the amount of control that's in our money, and how the banking class basically controls a great deal of our lives, and how we can overcome that and become more focused on real needs and caring for each other and working in harmony versus striving for the almighty buck, working a job we hate and just barely getting by. My whole purpose here is to, have an honest money system for honest people and live in a harmonious way and eliminate war worldwide.
Well, David, thanks so much for hopping on here today. It's always a pleasure when you hop on, and I know our audience loves having you here. So